Hello, people of the internet. Welcome to the season finale of the Sons of Serizawa podcast for 2015, which also just so happens to be the supposed Andres' Rockin' New Year's Eve thingamabobby that we've been doing for the last two New Year's specials.
We're
So,
gonna sit here. He's gonna tell us what happened during the year, and we're just gonna be here like, "Yep, that happened."
yeah,
And then,
that's a thing.
and then he's gonna be like, "These people died," and we're gonna be like, "Yep, sucks." And that's the whole show. So
And it will be
if you're
like, see
not
you
down
next
for that,
year. Maybe
if you're
next
not
year
down
will
for
be
that, if
better, but it'll probably not be.
you're not down for that, this probably isn't the show for you.
Most likely. So, as you've already heard, that was Dylan McCandless, aka Super DM64.
Yo,
And last but certainly not least, the one and only David Joshua Hernandez, aka Gorizard.
SOS, I thought this was Shuash.
Oh, I kinda wish? No, not really. Because then I would have to go through the trouble of doing all the editing. So, yeah, Bill is not here due to being sick at the moment as of this recording, which was why the Any Questions 5 did not take place on this past Monday, but it will occur, and we'll get to that at the end of the show. So yeah, Bill once again left me in charge. I think this is probably like the fourth time I want to say. I think, but either way, since I was gonna be basically running the whole New Year's Eve, I was kind of already organizing the New Year's Eve stuff. Yeah, might as well just take over the show for a while for this episode. So, you guys ready?
yeah,
Ben,
All right, so let's just start off by honoring a few of the people that sadly passed away during 2015. These people who were extremely talented and are sadly no longer with us. Of course, the probably the biggest loss that occurred this year that probably affect more people who are involved, more of us geeks more than anyone else was Leonard Nimoy himself. Uh, as you all know, Leonard Nimoy, he was known for being portraying the iconic Spock in the Star Trek series. He was Galvatron in the Transformers movies. He was in a shit ton of stuff. Had a really long, very successful career.
he sang a
He
song about hobbits.
sang a song about hobbits. The man did everything. He travels to the stars and traveled to the stars and back, and we are certainly gonna miss him.
He had a goatee that one time in that other dimension. It was good times. It was good times.
Yes, and luckily we will not have to worry about evil Spock taking over Leonard Nimoy's role in life
No, that's true.
because we know he is for certainly dead.
So if evil Spock comes through the dimensional gate and tries to pretend to be Leonard Nimoy, we can be like, okay, first of all, you have a goatee. Second of all, he's dead, so you're not the guy.
And the second biggest loss that affected a lot of us was Christopher Lee, who many of you know was the who played the iconic Dracula in the Hammer horror films, and he
No, no,
was.
no.
Hmm?
He did that. He also, God, what didn't he do? The man, the man, he was a fucking like spy in like World War II, and then he like you mentioned, he played Dracula famously. He was the Wicker Man in the original version of the Wicker Man,
All
not
right.
the Beast version. Um, and then more recently, he played iconic villains both in the Star Wars prequels as Count Dooku and in more notably in Lord of the Rings as Saruman. Oh,
Absolutely.
also he had a metal band and he died and he was like in 90 something.
And he was in a ton of Tim Burton movies, but that's kind of a given.
The man was amazing. He was one of my favorite celebrities of all time, and it's probably I know everybody else's biggest death that like fucked with him this year was Leonard Nimoy, but nah, he kind of came in second just because I was like Christopher fucking Lee died, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember. I think it was last year we were all contemplating how we would all feel if like some of the biggest celebrities that we are fans of today would have passed away. Did you brought up Christopher Lee?
I might have. I don't recall what I said on any given occasion, but I might have. I can certainly imagine myself bringing him up for all the reasons I've mentioned.
Right, but luckily, as for everyone else we mentioned beforehand, They are luckily still with us today. However, to quickly move on to another individual, this person passed away in mid 2015. He was known as Rowdy Roddy Piper, a famous wrestler. But however, the majority of us here, pretty much all of us, I'm assuming here in the podcast, since we're not real big wrestling fans, we all know him as I believe his character was George Nada from They Live. He was the man who kicked ass and chewed bubblegum, and when he ran out of bubblegum, you know shit was gonna go down.
I actually did know him as a wrestler first because although I'm not particularly a huge wrestling fan myself, there are a lot of wrestling fans in my family. So I actually knew his name as a wrestler years before I ever saw They Live or knew what it was. But I fucking love him in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mainly remember him as the maniac from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, he was in the series?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He was the wrestler.
What a surprise.
He had a recurring... Well, he was a recurring character every now and then. I think the most memorable part that he had in that show was when when the gang tried to recruit him into like some sort of pyramid scheme, and he ended up making the money instead of the gang.
Let's see. Another individual who passed away was Yvonne Craig. Everybody who especially Batman fans, may know her as the actress who portrayed the very first actress to portray the character of Batgirl in the 1966 Batman series, which I believe she only appeared in its last season, which was season 3. And I think they invented the character of Batgirl around the same time they included her in the comics. So I'm not sure which came first, or maybe like one decision was influenced by the other. But
That's an interesting question. I don't know. It could very well be that the TV show invented the idea. Because one, having a female Batman sidekick and calling her Batgirl is just a stupid enough idea that I can believe it coming from that show. And two, we've seen it happen before with like Harley Quinn coming out of the animated series and
influencing the history of the comics, I suppose.
Yeah. To the point that she's now going to be in a Hollywood blockbuster. So, so that's interesting. I never knew that they happened around the same time. I would be interested to find out which one was actually, which medium invented the character.
Right. Or I think maybe the person who wrote Batgirl around that same time as the TV show ended up I think that writer had a part in the TV show, so he was, I guess, using notes from the comics and translated them to the TV show, or maybe it was the opposite, where he took notes from the TV show and adapted it into the comics. Again, similar to what Paul Dini did with Harley Quinn when translating the character from one medium to the other. But of course, Batgirl has been one of the most popular sidekicks in the Bat family, right next to Robin, and continues to be a strong supporting character of Batman's up to this very day, decades earlier. And I guess we kind of owe it to Yvonne Craig's portrayal for at least in a way putting like the stamp on this character in terms of pop culture outside of the comics. And who knows? I personally haven't seen much of Batman 66, so who knows? I'm pretty sure it's like a comment. I think not many people would argue that her portrayal of Batgirl was much more fondly remembered than the what's her name, that one actress from Batman and Robin.
Oh, Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah, I thought it was like it's Silverstone, but I'm not sure about the first name.
Pretty sure it's Alicia. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, the most iconic version of Batgirl, as with many things in the Batman universe, is the animated series version. But yeah, I think in terms of live action interpretations, more people probably know the Alicia Silverstone version, but
yeah, because it's more recent.
But I don't think more people would look on it fondly.
Right. So let's see, and to move on to our final celebrity death, this person passed away only 2 days ago, which is why I added him. I know a lot of people are big fans of this individual. His name was Lemmy Kilmister. If I mispronounce that name, I am horribly sorry. I believe he was the bassist of Motorhead. For me personally, I have not listened to much Motorhead outside of stuff that I've listened to in the Guitar Hero or Rock Band video games. But I have seen his imagery before on numerous occasions. And whenever I looked at something that was like involved in like rock culture, and so it is unfortunate to hear of his passing. Not sure if any of you happen to listen to Motorhead.
Nah, I know of them, but I really don't have any experience with them. So
Same thing.
Right. Well, considering how extremely recent this his departure was, I decided to include him out of respect. So, with the celebrity deaths out of the way, let's start with January. There was only one real significant. Well, before we get into this, I did want to mention at least three things that occurred like consistently, pretty consistently throughout the entirety of 2015. The first up is good old crazy Donald Trump's campaign for presidency. I did never thought that his campaign would be taken as seriously as it was, because like when I first heard that Donald Trump was running for president, I thought like no one's gonna take this seriously. The man's a living cartoon character, and yet
but that
his
that's
entire
exactly why it's made it as far as it has, because America loves the circus.
and like I feel like Donald Trump must be thinking every day he's thinking what kind of stupid shit can I get away with today, and I guess that's the sort of strategy that's kept him in the presses. Let's see. The other thing was the further deterioration of Bill Cosby's career as more and more and more women are coming up front and saying this guy did a lot of horrible things to me. It's the same story, same MO. And now I think this month there was one individual who had a lawyer, and the lawyer actually is going to press charges, saying that we actually do have concrete evidence this time around, because it was just recent enough for this evidence to exist, and it looks like Bill Cosby may finally be facing court time. But in the meantime, his career has gone downhill. He's kind of like nobody really wants to associate with him. We all predicted this last year when we first talked about Bill Cosby's the first allegations of rape allegations against Bill Cosby, and we were all like, yeah, this is not going to bode well for him either way. And yeah, what a surprise! It didn't bode well for him.
It worked out great for us though, because so many great jokes at his expense.
Especially the thing with the dope and grope occurring at G-Fest, you see. Dopin' and gropin' was a popular phrase that, at least popular among us, that we had used a lot throughout the entirety, throughout the duration of the road trip to G-Fest 2015. And finally, the last thing I wanted to bring up was the kind of the social justice warrior movement, the whole like easily like people getting offended over the most stupidest shit
and
ever.
thinking that I should give a shit that they're offended, and that everyone else should too, and that we should all pat them on the back and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you that you got fucking offended, you fucking coddled, bratty, bitchy child."
Exactly. I couldn't have put it in better words. And that seemed to have been like a recurring thing that went on throughout the entire year, so much so that even like the media has like started like pushing back against all of this. We've had many comedians speak out against this super ultra uh, PC movement,
It's been a major theme.
racial sensitivity, all that stuff. Go ahead, Dylan.
It's been a major theme of this past season of South Park.
Exactly. I was about to bring that up. Yeah, what South Park did was absolutely brilliant.
Oh,
Uh,
this has been one of their my favorite seasons of theirs in recent memory, because they really nailed it on the head.
oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And so it looks like they're going to continue. Even South Park is still going to continue that subject matter for next season. So I can't wait to see what they do with that.
Yeah, because PC Principal is still a thing, and I was kind of hoping he would like die horribly by the end of the season.
But then like
Apparently,
the season somehow got like wrapped up in a subplot about ads.
yeah. The whole finale was kind of confusing. That was the biggest problem I had with the whole season.
Yeah.
Is that I'm not sure if I like the way it wrapped up, simply because it kind of came out of nowhere, like right out of left field. And it's almost, I think, because of the way South Park episodes are written. I think they sort of wrote themselves into a corner, and they're like, we don't know what the fuck we're gonna do now, and we have a week, so let's come up with some bullshit. And they were like, hey, aren't ads annoying? And they made this whole other thing.
Yeah. I really hate ads.
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 But the part where Jimmy Vollmer says, "Suck my dick, PC Principal," is my favorite line of the whole season.
Although I do like how it kind of reflected how you had other people. They had like the PC principal. He was trying to directly affect the media in order to uh, adhere to his biases.
I like the episode where they were talking about safe spaces, and at the end they literally hung reality.
Yeah,
They
and
executed reality. They sentenced him to death and hung him in the public square. And I thought that's the most apt metaphor.
I just love that one line that reality said, where it's like not everywhere is gonna be a fucking was it call it like uh damn it, I already forgot the line. It was like, not, this isn't some art school or some art college or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
because that's where a lot of this shit has been happening all year. Is these fucking college kids
who think
like
who think they
everything?
who think they know better because they've taken a few courses and they feel like they have the need to fight against some sort of social injustice going on in the world. I mean, not the
Did you
world,
did you
just
see?
America.
Did you see? Yeah, and the rest of the world's looking at this bullshit like, what the fuck are they talking about? Did you see the fucking video? I don't remember how long ago this was, but like the girl yelling at like the guy on campus. He was like an administrator or whatever, and at one point she's yelling at him, and she's like, "It's not about creating an intellectual space." I was like, "It's fucking college. Of course, it's about creating an intellectual space. That's what you're there for. That's what you paid to receive. You idiot." And at one point, she's like, "Who hired you?" And the funny part about that is, apparently, her family had something to do with hiring him. So that was nice. Um,
Oh, hilarious. Well, this problem certainly isn't going to go away anytime soon, but hopefully, if there are more people, more large voices out there, if there are more large voices out there like a Trey Parker and Matt Stone, I think there will be a big enough like movement that will tell this like PC conservative movement to go fuck itself. But
yeah,
if you know what I'm
yeah,
even more afraid of, that people will start using this "go f yourself" PC move, this anti "go f yourself" anti PC movement would give people an excuse to act as offensive as possible, and just say, "Oh, stop being so offended," when there would probably be a legitimate reason to be offended. You know what I mean?
yeah. And that's. I don't think the people who subscribe to this worldview really realize that they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot,
Mm-hmm.
because when you overuse the concept of "I'm offended," when you abuse that concept to the extent that they have, it starts to lose meaning after a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody has to give a shit that you're offended, and now because you've been abusing that concept, nobody is going to. At some point, it's just going to reach a point where it's like, oh, you're offended. Well, why don't you just go fucking cry? It's like,
Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, like, what if there's someone who does have a legit reason to be offended, but no one is going to take them seriously because they're just going to lump them with every other individual out there who says they're offended or that's offended, that's offensive.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. What they've done is they've
Mm-hmm.
they've sort of, or
Oh,
what they're
right.
doing is they're sort of eroding the meaning of what it is, to the
Yeah.
point where it's not going to matter anymore, and that sort of thing is going to start to occur.
Right. Right.
um, people abuse these buzzwords, and I don't think they realize that they're just sort of taking the power out of them every time they abuse them so like publicly and blatantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess to finally start moving on to the 2015 retrospective, let's start with January. The only event I could find out of January was, sadly, it was a very tragic event that occurred in France, and that was the Jesuits Charlie movement, where there was these. Speaking of people getting offended, there were these political cartoonists who made these inappropriate depictions of the Prophet Muhammad, and that, of course, made a lot of religious extremists upset to the point where they bombed uh, the building that the political cartoonists were working in, and pretty much killed them. And so this sparked a large movement, the hashtag Jesuit Charlie, um, hashtag that would spread throughout the internet, and a lot of people were upset. And unfortunately, this won't be the only time where I'll be talking about terrorism occurring in France. So yeah, that was a very unfortunate way to start 2015, and I feel so bad for France for this year. So let's see.
You know,
Uh huh.
it's one it's one thing when a terrorist it's one thing when a terrorist has like motivations that you can halfway understand. It's another thing when they're like, I don't like your cartoon, so I'm gonna blow you up. And then it's like, well, that's kind of stupid, Mr. Terrorist.
At which point they
If I went
respond.
around blowing up everybody,
Mm-hmm.
if I went around blowing up everybody, whoever portrayed something that I liked in a way that I didn't enjoy, if I went around blowing up all those people, I'd be killing everybody. Fucking,
Right, and
it's insanity.
but I guess because you know what's kind of fucked up is that like if you according to like certain media's like certain like places like like especially Fox where if you just so happen to be white and do the same things that a terrorist would do, you wouldn't be labeled a terrorist. You would be labeled mentally ill. Whereas if you were of a different race, then you would be labeled a terrorist by certain biased media's, and that's kind of fucked up. But hey, that's the world we live in.
By
So,
a certain
mm-hmm.
media that owns Star Wars: The New Hope.
uh,
I'm talking about Fox.
yes,
Damn it.
yes, I know Fox, but wait, does Fox still own A New Hope or like the old Star Wars?
Apparently,
Oh, they
okay.
still own
So
the
well,
distribution rights, I believe, because
yeah, the distribution rights.
yeah,
Like,
because I do see like Fox's logo like all over my new Blu-ray of the 6 movies that came out this year. So let's see.
yeah.
I
Well, they
was
have
glad
the.
when I was glad when I went and saw Force Awakens that they didn't put like the Disney castle at the beginning because
Oh yeah,
that would have kind of killed it for me.
yeah, yeah. There's no mention at all really of of Disney unless you. I guess you maybe you could find Disney in like at the very end of the credits. So
Maybe, yeah, there was a Disney logo at the end of the credits. I remember
okay.
that, but there wasn't anything before the movie. Really, the movie just sort of started. I don't remember any like production company logos.
I think just
Like those
Lucasfilm, and
really
that was
annoying
it.
production company logos where it almost looks like the beginning of a movie.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was just like
Maybe I don't
Lucasfilm, and that was
remember.
it. So let's see. Moving on to February, to go be on the more lighthearted side. Does anyone remember the gold and white dress thing that everyone would not shut the fuck up about on social media, especially a certain individual who is
Yeah,
here on this podcast?
I do
Fuck you.
remember. I do remember the blue and black dress, Andres. I remember that was a big thing.
That shit blew my mind, Andres, at first.
No,
And yes, and then it got annoying.
does anyone remember what it actually turned out to be? Because I think it was gold and white in the end.
No, no,
No,
no.
I'm pretty sure it was the
BB,
other one. I'm pretty sure it was black and blue.
yeah, the BBC America did like some sort of investigative video thing, and it turned out that fucking ugly dress was like blue and black. And then they went through some sort of scientific explanation. I can't fucking remember that.
Had something to do with like people who saw white and gold. There's like something different about their eyes or something. I don't remember. It was
Something
so
about
long
the
ago.
spectral vision. They perceive it
Yeah,
differently.
I see. Well, unfortunately, I didn't care then, and I do not care now. But it was a thing
You
that
brought it up,
that
Andres.
I know. I'm only bringing it up because it was a thing that people talked about and people still remember from 2015. So the next thing up to bat that occurred in February, speaking of holiday that includes Valentine's Day, we had a movie that tries to cater to the romance crowd, and that film was the infamous 50 Shades of Grey, based on some piece of shit Twilight fan fiction that some author wrote and miraculously made a lot of money from. And the fact that I just said all that makes me want to kill myself.
it
Here's the
was made.
thing that
It
is
was
so
made for
contradicting
housewives.
about that.
It was made for housewives who read the book because they're like, "Ooh, this is vaguely sexual." Hmm.
And from what
And
I
I'm like,
hear, like the movie, I didn't bother to see the movie, but I hear like there's not really any real sexual content, nor even S and M, BDSM, BDSM, whatever that is. There's none of that content in the movie. It's very tame.
you guys know that there's porn on the internet, right? Like tons of it,
Yes, but
and it's like
but here, this is like erotica, which I guess is like classy porn. It's technically porn, but it's not really porn. You know what I
there's
mean?
there's also erotica on the internet, and it's much better done. So just go to the internet, You don't have to pay any money.
Like Taken by the T-Rex, Dylan.
It is.
Yeah, that is a classic American piece of fiction, Andres. How dare you deny the literary validity of Taken by the T-Rex?
Let's see. Did either of you check out 50 Shades of Grey?
I did
No,
not.
but it's so fucking contradicting because I have a few female friends who I actively tell I watch porn, and they're like, "Ew, you're disgusting, you're perverted." And in the back of my mind, I'm like, "You watched 50 Shades of Grey and read the book 3 times. How's that any different from porn?"
Well, because it's the kind of thing where it's like Andres, it's like erotica, so it's like artsy, so like they can read it. They're like, oh, it's sexual, but it's not like porn. And I'm like, it's
They
people are fucking. It's the same thing.
Like, it's not stripping, it's burlesque.
they tell me that there's a story behind it. I'm like, there's some porn out there with stories too, but more emphasis on fucking.
And this is like yeah, the story's there, which is already based on a shitty story about some average woman who gets attracted to this dude who is very mysterious and learns a big secret from him. I honestly don't know what happens after that.
And nobody gives a shit.
If you want a book that has sex scenes in it, go read any other book that has sex scenes in it. Because
Read Game of Thrones.
most adult fiction will have a sex scene, and that's a generalization, obviously, and it doesn't always occur. But most adult fiction, unless it's like some niche thing, will
Even
probably have a I mean, if you go read a crime thriller, there's going to be a sex scene somewhere. I can almost guarantee it.
even
Um,
comics have sex scenes. Have you read Watchmen recently?
yeah, and the difference is it's better because the story is well told. The story is not explicitly about the sex because I don't even understand how that's a whole plot for a movie.
I'm surprised that 50 Shades of Grey didn't end up being like X-rated.
But it's so fucking tame.
And to think that Marlon Wayans, the guy behind the A Haunted House and A Haunted House 2, is going to be doing a parody of this film next year called 50 Shades of Black.
And that will be a better movie than 50 Shades of Grey.
That
Yeah,
will
I'm
be
actually a little.
that will be debatable, knowing that this is going to be from Marlon Wayans.
I don't know, man. I might see it.
It
I'll
already
see it.
has a dated reference to the Kim Kardashian Playboy or magazine photo op.
Well, Kim Kardashian and black guys kind of go hand in hand, Andres.
I'm not gonna lie. There were a couple of jokes in a haunted house that kind of hit.
Well, at least the sequel had. Wait, was it the sequel or the first one that had Gabriel Iglesias in it?
It was a sequel.
Ah,
Okay,
it had Gabriel Iglesias in it.
In the sequel, yeah.
yeah. I saw
No,
one
no,
scene with
sequel.
him, and he was pretty funny.
That guy. That guy.
That guy.
That fat guy.
Hey, he's not fat.
Fat guy.
He's fluffy.
Fluffy.
Oh, right, yeah.
Let's see. Moving on, we move on to the Super Bowl, where I personally am not a sports fan. I don't really have a lot of investment in football, but I did notice one thing that came out of the Super Bowl halftime show, and that involved the Katy Perry's performance. And out of that performance came a man in a shark suit, one of two men who were dressed up as sharks, and one of them just so happened to have become an internet sensation, and that character was Left Shark. Apparently, Left Shark, he was dancing like he kind of was offbeat. He was out of sync with the other shark, so he kind of did his own thing on the left side of the stage. And I guess the internet fell in love with him for whatever reason, because the internet is the most random entity that can make a star out of someone who fucked up real bad.
That reminds me of something that happened a while back, and it was, some kid had his 15 minutes of fame. He was featured on I guess Tyra Banks' show
Yeah.
for a bit. But do any of you guys remember like some kid was dancing all very very sensual, like in the background of some news report?
Was this a kid from Yo Gabba Gabba?
I
Like, I
I
am Nathaniel and I like to dance. And they, like, I guess some people were, like, photoshopping him in different situations.
don't they Photoshop everyone in a different situation?
Nice, Dylan. For
No,
those of you
but
who
this
don't
this
know,
reminds me of that.
for
Like
those, yeah,
how long was this thing famous? Because this is like the first I heard of this left shark thing.
I have
I've
heard of it.
seen this fucking shark all over the internet, and I had no idea what people were talking about because I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I don't give
Right.
a fuck about the Super Bowl. I'm not gonna watch it for a halftime show. Yeah, fucking. But so I had no idea that that's what he was from until you just said this.
Yeah,
I'm
he
way
was from.
behind on my internet chatter.
You know what's funny? I knew he was from the Katy Perry Super Bowl halftime performance, but it wasn't until today that I actually researched and see what was so special about Left Shark that made him more popular than Right Shark. That is hilarious. And for those of you who don't know, Dylan posted two pictures. One was a parody of the Jaws poster, but with Left Shark, and the other was the final shot of Batman '89, but with Left Shark obviously staring at the Left Shark bat signal.
Because there is a left shark signal now. That's a thing that exists. Thank you, internet.
Yes. And so let's see. I couldn't find anything that occurred in March. So if there's anything that happened in March that you guys remembered, feel free to leave something here.
Oh my god, man, some of these left shark pictures are genius.
Let's see. What the fuck? Did he just throw a chair at the painting?
Yeah, you know that famous diner painting? It was
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
one episode of That 70s Show. He just fucking threw a chair at the window. Because hashtag I do what I want, hashtag left shark.
Let's see. Moving on, like I said, I couldn't find anything for March. So for April, we had the latest entry in the Fast and the Furious series, which was called Furious 7. It obviously had a lot of promotion behind it because of the unfortunate passing of Paul Walker. And there was a lot of controversy surrounding Furious 7 because not all of Paul Walker's scenes were filmed, so they used a body double using the actor's brother and using like CG techniques to try to put like Paul Walker's face on him. And the movie did extremely popular. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of shit from this because I know there's a lot of fans of the Fast and the Furious movies. And I know it seemed like a lot of people were making a big deal out of Paul Walker's death and out of this movie. But like, for you guys who saw like the mourning over this actor? I mean, I know it's incredibly unfortunate that this talented individual passed away way far before his time. But did it feel like they were kind of overhyping? Not overhyping, that's a wrong word, but like making a bigger deal out of this as if this was like the death of Michael Jackson.
I
I
think
mean,
that
I
was
kind of
probably
thought
like
that
the media to blame.
I
Like
kind of
They were
thought that the death of Michael Jackson was a little overhyped, honestly. So this, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah. I mean, maybe I'm just incredibly cynical, but it almost
mm-hmm.
felt as if they were playing it up even more than they would have normally,
Mm-hmm.
so that they could, sell movie tickets. Because then they have that fucking song in the movie, and everybody was like, "No, this is an amazing song," and I'm like, "No, it's not."
And
You
there's
just
that
think
like
it's not.
there's that final scene where it's like Vin Diesel bids farewell to Paul Walker's character, and it's all big, and it's all like, this is it. This is not just goodbye to the character, but goodbye to the actor. One big loving tribute to him. And sure, it was
Yeah,
touching
and
and all.
I have no doubt that the actors involved were doing it out of like love for Paul
Right,
Walker, but
absolutely.
I know that behind them there was an executive, rubbing his hands together, going good, good,
Yeah.
and that's
no,
evidenced
no,
by
no,
the fact that even though they said it was going to be the last one, they're doing another one.
I
So
was about to say that because wasn't the tagline or the hashtag of the fucking movie "One Last Ride"?
One
yeah,
last ride for one particular individual.
one last ride, unless we make money, in which case there will be many, many more rides. So
At the same time, a lot of Paul Walker movies that no one even knew he was in suddenly started coming out on DVD around the same time.
Was one of them Tammy and the T-Rex?
I have no fucking idea. I just saw like some random direct to DVD movies,
Uh-huh.
and
and
I
they
picked it
got
up just.
they got more attention than they would have normally just because Paul Walker was in them because there was that big thing about him dying. So yeah, I mean it's not just the Fast and the Furious people. All of the movie execs who had him in anything were doing the finger rub thing at the exact same time.
Ooh.
Good,
Good.
Let's see. Moving on to May, we have a particular Marvel movie that was incredibly hyped up, and that was Avengers: Age of Ultron, which was a rather successful movie. It didn't quite live up to. I don't think it was. It didn't. I know it didn't make as much money as the first Avengers, and critically, it did not reach the level of the first Avengers.
I know
Uh,
it pissed off a bunch of feminists,
mhm.
um, so I liked it for that.
But yeah, it did introduce a fan fucking tastic villain with Ultron, James Spader as Ultron, and for once it actually gave us a very memorable Marvel villain, which we are sadly lacking in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, unless you look towards the Netflix shows.
Yeah, because I mean, you've got Loki, and that's just about it, you know. And it's not that the other villains aren't done well. Like I think there are good performances there.
Right.
Um, like for instance, I think Hugo Weaving did a good job as Red Skull. Um, but for some reason, he didn't attract as much attention as the Loki character did. And then you had I was so mad at Thor: The Dark World because they wasted their Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah.
He was
Like,
you could really tell that he was acting. You know, he was trying to be all menacing and shit, but they just
mhm.
didn't give him enough movie to work with.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm sure
Now,
there are other examples, but I can't really think of them at the moment.
yeah. Let's see. And coming up after this, we also had another movie that this one was surprised everyone with how good it was and how people just were raving about this film, and that was uh, Mad Max: Fury Road. It because this was a movie that like was known because of both the director and mostly because of Mel Gibson. And here's a movie that had the director returning to the series after doing a string of family movies like the Happy Feet films and Babe Pig in the City. And this had
That was
no
the same guy who did Mad Max.
all four now of Mad Max. Yes, that dude. He
He
is
made
quite.
Babe,
He
Pig
made
in the
Babe.
City.
Yes, the man. What can I say? The man is fucking versatile.
He has a varied career, that man.
Yes. Ooh, I
And the
want.
the movie that gave Bill an orgasm.
Oh yeah, this. Okay, I was
Babe,
all.
Pig in the City.
Yes. After all,
Or
why do you think they?
Happy
Why do
Feet
they?
gave Bill an orgasm.
What do you think he's called an agent of sausage?
Oh yeah, it's true. It's true.
This was a movie like I am consider myself quite a not like a casual leaning on big fan of Mad Max in general, but for Bill, he went from I don't give a fuck about this movie to oh my god, I gotta get the fucking video game, I gotta see all the fucking movies, I gotta get the season pass. So this movie made a believer out of one of us. That is a testament to this movie's success.
This
I,
is the
I still haven't
equivalent to
seen
the
it, but I
versus
remember.
Cherry
I
we
remember
had a while
being
back.
What was that, Dylan?
I remember being surprised. I remember being surprised by the critical reception because I wasn't expecting. You know, I was kind of expecting them to do what they do with like most modern action movies that are riding on a previously existing franchise. I
Right.
was expecting it to suck, and the internet to be like, "Well, that sucked." Then all of a sudden, everybody's turning around and being like, "It's amazing! It's like the best action movie ever." I'm like, "Oh wow!" Like, so I remember being really surprised
Mm-hmm.
by the what I heard about it.
And I would like to owe it to George Miller because this was obviously an experienced director who had. I feel like just looking at the movie alone, it kind of feels like J.J. Abrams, Star Wars. It feels like a harkening back to an older style of cinematography of just filmmaking in general, and very much appreciated that. So moving on, I'm pretty sure.
Apparently, this.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that Mad Max 4 was like in development since like the mid '90s, I think.
Oh yeah, and funny enough, Paul Walker, I believe, was in like at one point Mad Max 4 was going to be a prequel with a younger Max still being like a cop, and he was going to be portrayed by Paul Walker, I believe, but eventually got to a point where Paul Walker had to because the movie was taking so long to get off the ground, he had to decide whether or not he was going to continue with his project or just move on with Fast and the Furious, and I like to think he made the right decision.
Wasn't it Heath
You
Ledger that was
guys,
attached at
do you
one
guys
point?
Yeah, Dylan.
Did you guys hear the? I heard a fan theory somewhere that um, Max in the movie isn't the actual like Max, like the Mel Gibson Max, but he's actually like the kid from one of the previous movies. And he's like all grown up, and he like adopts the name Max. I don't remember where I heard that.
That would
It's
be
like a
very
fan theory.
interesting, but I do wonder how he would get the Max's car.
Yeah, that would be my main question as well. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because like there's this whole thing apparently.
Some
Again, I
say
still
that
haven't actually
Max
seen the
just
movie for
gave it to
myself, but
him.
apparently like apparently he doesn't actually say his name is Max until like later on in the film, right? And like there's so apparently so the theorists are basically like that's when he decided to adopt the name Max and become a hero like the other
He
Mad Max. And I was like, well, that's an interesting theory. I can't really speculate on it, but
Mm-hmm. Well,
he says it twice in the movie, at the beginning and the end.
well, it's a very interesting theory, and if I'm not sure if they would ever, if George Miller would ever want to touch upon this theory, or I guess if they ever do make another Mad Max movie, they're just going to continue on with I'm blanking on his name now. The act,
Bane, Mad Max.
yeah, Bane Max, for the rest of it, and just treat him as if he always was Max. I'm assuming. But to finally move on, we have a certain sporting event that was heavily heavily hyped, and that was the boxing match between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao being an extremely popular Filipino boxer, and a lot of people like I think Pacquiao and a lot of his fans have been like waiting for to have the chance to see him go up toe to toe with Mayweather. And Mayweather, he's like, okay, but I get to choose the ring, I get to choose what like boxing gloves you get to use, I get to choose the referee, I get to choose all this. And Pacquiao was like, yeah, sure, I want this, I just want to fight you, that's all. And what happened was we got a disappointing match because for the most part, like Mayweather, he kind of did a mostly like a hit and run. He was barely fighting, and yet Mayweather ended up winning on a technicality, I think. And pretty much everyone was pissed off that there was so much hype, so much money spent on this that the we didn't even get like the fight that we were hoping for. And I do remember this one little thing. I believe like all three main Batman actors were there at the match. I think we had Christian Bale, Michael Keaton, and Batfleck there to support Pacquiao.
Now, when you said the biggest sporting events at the time, I thought you were going to say something like Foxy Boxing or something.
David, the world does not work like Las Vegas. No,
No,
Fox.
I was there. No, I mean, I wasn't there at the fight, but I was there for the aftermath. Oh my god, I had to work graveyard that night.
Was it at Luxor? I thought it was at MGM or
Yeah,
Caesar.
but you know, it's Vegas. It's Vegas.
Oh yeah,
Wait, was it?
it's gonna
No,
be a big
it
crowd
was at
after.
him. Yeah,
I think we're dealing with a
yeah.
severe load of
Oh
lag
god,
here.
there were so many. Wait, what?
We got a lot of lag here. I'm assuming.
Lag?
Yeah, lag.
I think it's coming from you.
Oh boy. But I guess we'll try to move on then. But yeah, I can totally understand. The fight took place in Vegas. You were in Vegas, so yeah, in Vegas. The Vegas Strip itself
I
is
was.
not a really big place, so I can assume that you got a lot of shit.
I got a lot of shitty customers that night. Oh my god. Half the reasons why I switched my availability to mornings.
Oh yeah, because nobody really goes to Vegas in the morning, to the Strip in the morning, unless you were like a tourist like me who just wants to go sightseeing.
yeah, most
Well, we
people have
get really,
hangovers,
really
so they
busy
don't really get out
regardless.
and
Moving on.
Yeah, okay. Another
everybody
event.
else everybody else in Vegas would be in their hotel rooms like recuperating, and meanwhile Andres is walking around with like a camera. He's like, "Oh, look at that!" And he's like snapping photos.
Wow, where's the Statue of Liberty? It looks just like the real thing. Yuck. You guys still there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So moving on, we go to another sporting event. I only brought this up because, again, this was a thing that was talked about a lot, and that was Deflategate, where supposedly during a New England Patriots football game, the football, I guess, the Patriots coach was accused of deflating the football a little bit, so that Tom Brady would be able to perform better with it, and it caused a huge stir. Tom Brady himself was suspended for 4 games, and the Patriots had to pay a $1 million fine. And the whole thing was satirized on an episode of this season's South Park.
And I
Wait,
did not
what?
give a fuck.
They deflated a ball so he can play better?
Yes, and it was called
How the
Deflategate.
fuck does that work?
You let air out of the balls ever
Hey,
so slightly.
don't most games require the ball to be fuller for it to work? But I mean, I know that's how like basketballs work because they don't bounce right if they don't have air. But I guess footballs are different. I don't know.
Oh no, again, I don't play football, so I'm not sure how letting air out would work. So,
I don't like play sports or indulge in natural light. So I don't know how any of that shit works. But
yeah, to me that stuff might as well be like magic.
Conspiracies.
So, anyways, the last event from the month of May I wanted to bring up was something that I believe we have mentioned multiple times on the podcast, and that was the infamous video where Shia LaBeouf told the internet collectively to do it, and how to not let your dreams be dreams, and that why that yesterday something or other, I don't know, just he wants us to do it, and asking us what are we
it
waiting
was the
for.
greatest speech. It was the greatest speech, the most inspirational speech I have heard since President Pullman in Independence Day. And I still don't know what it is, but I am inspired to go do it,
And
whatever it may be.
mhm.
Um, all he needs to do is make another video explaining what it is, and I'll fucking do it because that was a very stirring speech.
Maybe you have to listen to the rest of that speech where, because apparently this came from a video where Shia LaBeouf was reading off a bunch of
where Shia LaBeouf was
anecdotes.
reading off a bunch of.
That is some really bad lag. um, where basically Shia LaBeouf was reading off a bunch of, like, I believe anecdotes or but a bunch of lines that were written out by a graduating class of a art school, like an acting school in London. And so he just went in front of a green screen and started reading all of these little notes until he got to that portion where he just started shouting out the dude motivational speech that became a big deal on the internet. So maybe
Yeah,
it's within.
I've watched the entire thing.
Yeah.
I've watched the entire thing, and nothing has context. So it's very random. Things that he talks about in that thing. And you would think, oh, maybe I'll watch the rest of it, and it'll like shed some light on what "just do it" means, but it really doesn't because it's entirely random, and the things aren't really connected to each other. So
So let's
it's
see.
interesting though. To just watch a man in a room acting random bits of dialogue that don't really connect to each other. It's interesting from like an artistic standpoint.
Oh, absolutely. Let's see. Moving on to June, we had a big announcement coming out of I believe, the judicial system. I think they were the ones who did this, but pretty much gay marriage is now legalized across the entire country, and many people were happy. Many people were upset about this. Many people didn't care. But
Many
I'd
people
say
refused to do their jobs, and then they got arrested, and then they got out, and they played Eye of the Tiger.
But I would say that this was a pretty big deal concerning like gay, like homosexual, in like the civil rights of homosexuals in this country.
Yeah, I had no doubt that this was going to happen at some point, but I really didn't think it was going to be in 2015,
Oh yeah.
because this issue remains to be very contentious. But they went ahead and they did it, so it's legal, bitches.
Now, well, like, what's the next thing we need to do? We need to worry about. Oh yeah, legal. Need to legalize weed. That's gonna be the next big issue. No, probably not. Another thing that happened was when Bruce Jenner, the former male Olympic athlete and
Former man.
former male athlete, he
Andres. She's very brave.
uh,
Don't forget to mention how brave she is.
she bravely revealed herself on the cover of Variety magazine as Caitlyn Jenner
With a
in,
C, not a K.
in
So
a heavily photoshopped image that made people go, "Ooh, she makes for one fine woman." And then you see her in real life, and you're thinking, "Oh dear God."
you should not make for a fine woman, but you're brave, very brave.
Very brave, very brave, absolutely brave, bravest of the
Bill,
brave.
Bill was one of those people who thought Caitlyn Jenner was hot in that magazine.
No, I think Bill once once mentioned off recording where it's like, Bruce Jenner was not an attractive man to begin with. What makes you think that she would turn out any better as a woman?
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah, but either way, she was brave. She is brave.
Oh, very brave.
So brave that
Applause.
she deserved the what was it the humanitarian Woman of the Year award or some bullshit like that.
She bravely got that surgery, bravely revealed herself to the world, and bravely ran over people. And she's just so brave.
Brave, absolutely, totally. Moving onwards, we have one of the biggest movies to have come out this year that wasn't Star Wars, and that was Jurassic World, the film that brought back the Jurassic Park franchise out of retirement. And of course, a lot of people were. There were a lot of. This is a movie that had a lot of mixed opinions about the movie. Some people liked it, some people hated it. But who the fuck cares? It made a lot of money, so the studio is gonna continue onwards with merchandising and making the sequels and the prequels and the spin-offs and the reboots and the zip-zops, zoobity-bops.
Good. Yeah, it was very successful. I enjoyed it. Obviously,
As did I.
Obviously, it's got some flaws, as most movies do. That CG though, not the best.
And of course, the high heels that everyone will not let Bryce Dallas Howard forget about.
I mean, look, I never understood what the problem was with that. She didn't know she was going to be stomping around in the jungle. She was just going to work that day. Yeah.
Oh, but I'm offended because she's preserving traditional femininity, and that's sexist.
Yeah, but anyway,
Hey, that's another social issue we need to deal with. Feminazis.
So let's see.
they're very brave, very brave.
Very brave of Bryce Dallas Howard to choose to wear something so traditionally feminine and classy. That was her decision. She's an independent woman, so she has the right to preserve traditional femininity.
Yeah,
Because top class women in the high corporation don't wear high heels.
So moving on.
No, that never happens. Never happens. Statistically, never been shown to happen ever in the history of the world that a woman would wear high heels to her office job, really, because she doesn't really get out with the animals much. So, yeah, never. Totally unrealistic. What were you thinking, Colin Trevorrow, or whatever your name is?
You should have told her no. That's a stupid idea.
Go make me a sandwich.
I was thinking that. So let's see. Moving onwards, we move to July, where we have, I believe it could be the biggest movie of July, and that was Minions, which was the spin-off to the Despicable Me franchise, and of course Minions being they were the comic relief of the first two movies, and they have a whole movie to themselves. Minions merchandise, Minion madness was everywhere. This wasn't really an internet. I guess it was an internet thing because now we have Minion memes going on Facebook where people would put motivational quotes or speeches, and they would slap a random picture of a Minion on Facebook on there. And Minions, I think, went on to gross $1 billion, and I think is now in the top 10 highest grossing movies that are not adjusted for inflation, and that kind of depresses the fuck out of me. I mean,
I'm meaning to ask you, Andres, because you're the one among us who actually gives a shit about children's movies.
I did not. However, I did not see this movie, Dylan. Just to answer that first question.
Okay, you didn't see the movie, so I was wondering how you felt about sort of the Minion mania. Did you see the Despicable Me movies? Did you
I,
see those?
I saw the first movie.
Okay,
There
were
was
you
a
a
lot
fan?
of minions when
And
we went to Universal Studios.
oh yeah, there were a lot of minions. Like Universal does not often make a lot of child-friendly properties. They would mostly rely on other third parties like SpongeBob or Shrek. And so this was
Or
like the first.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, but it wasn't really children-friendly centric, you know. But like Minions was like the first like gold mine they had reached since the Land Before Time and An American Tail days. And so like, holy shit, we finally created something that's original and ours. And of course they, marketed the shit out of the Minions, and I can see their appeal. They have incredible, overly simplistic designs. They have high pitched voices. They speak in very like cross between gibberish and random words from random languages in real life. It's kind of like a big like homage to like slapstick Three Stooges Looney Tunes style of humor, and they work great as the comic relief from the at least from my experience, the first Despicable Me movie. I haven't seen the Minions movies only because I'm not sure. Like normally, giving the comic relief their own chance in like giving the comic relief the spotlight hasn't really bode well in a lot of cases. So I never saw the Minions movie because I didn't think I could really stand the Minions. Just the Minions and nothing else really. But
Yeah.
I am certainly sick of seeing Minions everywhere I go. Whether it's like you're seeing Minion T-shirts, Minion backpacks, Minions lunchboxes, Minion iPad covers, Minion video games, Minion plushies, Minion Blu-rays. Well, that one's kind of a given, but you kind of get the idea. I'm just sick to death of seeing these little creatures.
Oh,
Minion
Andres, I know what to get you
cosplays.
for your birthday now.
Oh, fuck you.
No, the only hint you'll get is that it's yellow and it has some features.
Has some
Is it at
features.
least the SH figure arts of the Yellow Ranger?
No, it's the Minion.
Fuck.
I was gonna say it's just a banana with glasses, but
That's essentially a Minion. So it's just a Minion. It's one of those. It's gonna be one of those shitty Minion Halloween costumes.
Oh. Or you're gonna give me some what would you call it, a defective minion plushie where like it's missing one of its eyes and the other one is on the left side of its head.
It's missing one of its eyes, and it's the Minion with only one eye. So that's kind of a problem.
Yes, that would be the perfect gift and a perfect example, appropriately from David, because it would be a perfect example of chaos theory.
That's chaos.
That's chaos theory.
that's chaos.
And let's see, moving on to one last event I had from July was the fact that we all went to G-Fest for the second time around, excluding David because he was a fucking idiot for not saving his money this year. Yeah, G-Fest was pretty awesome, and hey, one of us got to host a panel at G-Fest. So hooray for us, we got representation in there, despite the fact that our
Very
panel was
brave.
canceled a year
Very
ago.
brave Andres. Very brave Andres.
Yes, how brave of me. No, not really. Uh,
I remember the morning of you were like fucking nervous as all hell. And like,
that is true. Yes, I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna fuck up, and I actually did fuck up for. I've
yeah,
completely
what did you fuck up on again? I don't remember.
I blanked out on Keith Foster's name, and
Oh,
his name and his
son of a
comic.
bitch, he's awesome.
I know, I felt so bad, and after the panel was over, the first thing I did was apologize to him. It's oh no, man, it's alright, it's okay. Not kind of call my
Wait,
girl.
you had a panel at G Fest?
He hosted a panel. It was
I hosted a panel for independent kaiju comic book creators, and
basically he
Hosted
was
as
just
in
guy. Basically, all he did was ask the other guys questions. Like it was their panel. Like it
like
was.
like the guys at Comic Con where they're on the podium and
yeah,
they just
I was at well, the guy who would normally be on the podium asking questions. That was me, but I didn't have a podium. I just
what
kind of
did you have? I'm more
I
interested
I
in the
was I was
podium
sitting
now.
I was sitting at the table with the rest of the dudes. I was sitting next to Josh Finney, the writer of World War Kaiju, and we both kind of awkwardly shared the same mic with each mic.
Yeah, because they don't have like podiums at G Fest. It's just a table that everybody sits at up on stage, and then they like It's a lot more loose,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And after seeing how other people would organize their panels, like looking at August Ragone, I think that's how you pronounce his name,
Yeah,
or
that's how you pronounce it.
what's his name, Kyle Youst, the host of Kaiju Cast. They were a lot less. They didn't really attempt to be all that professional, and that kind of calmed my nerves, knowing that I feel like I felt like I wasn't going to be as professional as everyone else, but seeing how everyone was kind of working on my level kind of calmed my nerves, knowing that like I was pretty much performing at G Fest standards. I was performing well for G Fest standards. But I do want to give a big
I remember
In
apology
other
last year
once
words,
the
like
again
guy who
to
every
ran.
other
Foster.
schmuck in the world.
What was that, Dylan?
Yeah. I remember last year the guy. I remember last year the guy who ran like the Don Fry panel. He had like a certain way about him. He's like, so you've won such and such matches. You're like the most manly man in the history of manliness. What are your favorite memories of that fight? And he's like, I don't have any memories. It's great.
Oh yeah.
But he had sort of a more professional way to the way he hosted it than a lot of the people there do. But yeah, for the most part, it's like, hey, you guys, Godzilla. And they're like, yeah. And that's pretty much how the panel goes.
Only for me, all I gotta say is, "Hey guys, Jeff Zornow," and everyone was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, that guy.
Zornow. So moving onwards into the month of August, we had the incident where Jared Fogle, the former spokesman for Subway, was arrested because it was found out that the man in charge of I think it was like the Jared Fogle Foundation, which was like an organization to promote losing weight and eating healthy. The president of his organization was caught with child pornography, or like he was involved in in distributing child pornography, and so Fogel was arrested by association. So everyone was like, "Oh, what's up with Jared? Maybe he's still maybe he's innocent. Maybe it's just like the guy in charge of his company that's the one doing the crime." But then it was found out that Jared Fogle was arrested. He admitted to child molestation and was involved in that child pornography uh, ring, like that ring of the distribution and all that weird stuff. He was like heavily into it for like many years, and I think I read somewhere that like his youngest victim was only 12 years old. I want to say maybe even younger, and that his oldest victim was like 15. It was really horrific. It was horrible news to read about, and seemed so random to know that this was coming from the fucking Subway guy.
Yeah, there's a
The
$5
Subway
footlong
guy.
joke that I can make here. But out of respect to the victims, I won't make the $5 footlong joke, except by saying that there is one which kind of is making a joke, but not really. It's an odd situation.
Well, I will say to make that.
Well,
But yeah,
what I
so
don't
here's a pedophile.
understand is
Go ahead, David.
what I don't understand is I was gonna say what I don't understand is how does one distribute specifically child pornography? Does he like
Maybe he purchased.
solicit it on the streets or just like
Maybe.
He's like in an alley. He's like in an alley with a trench coat, and people. He's like, "Hey, you want to buy some kitty porn?" They're like, "No." And he's like, "Hey, you want to buy some death sticks?"
Nice Star Wars reference there, Dylan.
I
No, most
wonder
of
if
these,
South Park will
most of
parody this because
Did they mention Jared
they
this
did.
season?
I don't
Oh,
think they did.
They did. They
I don't
did.
remember.
It was
I
like it
haven't
was the
seen
first
this season yet.
episode.
Oh, they did.
Yeah. They like, all right, let's unleash the pregnant Latina immigrants to the PC principal's like fraternity house, and then let's unleash the kids, like the foreign kids, and then let's unleash Jared on there.
Oh yeah, they did do that. Okay, yeah, it was just a joke though. They didn't make like an episode about it or anything.
Right. They already beat the
Yeah,
dead horse there, quite literally.
right. Yeah, when Jared had AIDS,
Mm-hmm.
all those years ago. And at the South Park reference, people, he didn't actually have AIDS. Well, in the way that the show was done, he actually did have those kind of AIDS, but he didn't have AIDS.
People
It's an
AIDS, not people
yeah.
AIDS, but People.
AIDS.
AIDS that were people.
AIDS that are people.
AIDS.
People who aided him in promoting his $5 footlong to little kids.
And now he's gonna have all the footlongs he can now that he's in prison.
To answer David's question, I'm pretty sure most of these child kitty porn rings distribute through like the internet. Like they have like online groups and like email shit to each other.
Doesn't like the FBI have like a monitoring system for that? Like, oh, we detect child porn.
There's a way you can get around it though. There's something called the dark net, and I don't know how you access this mysterious thing called the dark net, but it's like really hard to trace for like a governmental body. I don't know. I watch a lot of crime shows.
Well, yeah, that was kind of some sad, shocking news. Funny enough, I tend to go to Subway a lot for whenever I'm off work for lunch, and I remember I was at like the day that Jared Fogle was like originally arrested. This was before he even admitted to be for like child molestation. I noticed that the signs with him were gone. At the Subway that I normally went to, and I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up? How come the breakfast menu is missing?" And the employee who she knows me because I've been there almost like on a weekly basis. She's like, "Oh, well, we're kind of getting rid of it. We're like Subway's like not associating themselves with Jared, but we're not as Subway employees. We're not allowed to talk about it." I'm like, "Oh shit, some shit went down." And then eventually, I found out on the internet.
Hey, remember when Bill Cosby wasn't a rapist and Jared wasn't a pedophile? Like, weren't those simpler times, everybody? Now we know. Now we know, and we can never unknow.
Yes, our heroes, Jared and Bill Cosby.
I don't know if I would call
horrible
either
people.
I don't know if I would call either of them my heroes, but
Jared was my hero, most certainly. Right up there with Gandhi, Rosa Parks, and Dr. King.
Oh, he's so brave. So brave.
So brave.
Bravely rammed his cock into little boys. Brave.
He was brave enough to throw away his successful multi-millionaire life as a man promoting Subway sandwiches. He was so brave enough to throw that away. He had a wife, he had kids, he had money, he had it all.
Subway.
He had Subway, and he fucked it all up.
That ain't all he fucked.
Yes, he fucked it more ways than one.
He messed up.
He done fucked up, man. It done fucked up.
So the lesson here, kids. So the lesson here, kids, is if you're thinking of distributing child porn, maybe don't.
That'd be a good idea.
Maybe don't. Maybe don't.
Maybe don't. Maybe just change your mind. Maybe just not.
Just
not.
Do the opposite of what Shia LaBeouf normally tells you to do.
Don't do it. You can lie.
Let your dreams be dreams.
I mean, you can lie about it to your you can lie about it to your pervert friends if you want that like pedophile street cred. But just maybe don't.
Yeah, I think we can all learn a lesson from Jared Fogle here. Anyways, speaking of more fuck-ups, we have Fan4stick, the failed reboot of the popular Fantastic Four franchise, where this was Fox's fourth attempt at a Fantastic Four movie, and it bombed spectacularly in their faces, as Josh Trank kind of made a big spectacle out of himself, and of course made the tweet heard around the world that solidified his burning of the bridges with Fox.
I went to Walmart the other day, and I found the Blu-ray on the shelf, and I was like, that movie came out already?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe just make a Fantastic Four movie that is, like, accurate, to the comic, just a thought.
Or even, of course the comic itself is extremely goofy, especially just by the premise alone, so it's like, hey, why not try, instead of trying to turn it into a grim and gritty reboot, why not try to do something new with it? Maybe make it a super sci-fi 60s period piece,
Yeah, take advantage of the fact that your comic book is goofy. You don't have to fucking Dark Knight everything. Because it just doesn't work on some occasions. This occasion in particular. Look at what Marvel did with like every movie of the past 5 years that they've done. Um, you know, you don't have to be afraid of like out there sci-fi comic book concepts. People like out there sci-fi comic book concepts, or else the comic books wouldn't be so fucking popular. So you can just make the movie, and you can have accurate Doctor Doom, and you can have a Galactus who's not a cloud, and you can like not do whatever the fuck they did in this version, and you can just like make the movie and make it right, and people will like it, and it's not that hard. I don't understand why people. I don't. I mean, I understand that things have to change for the film medium and all that shit, but at the same time, it's like, just look at Marvel.
Mm-hmm. I
They've
mean,
made
for God's sakes,
adjustments.
they're making a superhero magician, like a sorcerer, a fucking magic sorcerer superhero movie next year with Doctor Strange.
Yeah, they've pretty much come to the realization that, hey, you know what? We can kind of do whatever we want and people will buy it. And you know what, Fox? You could have done that too, because there's already a built-in audience. People, the Fantastic Four is a comic book property that's known. You don't have to try all that hard in terms of making it like grim and gritty, because it's not that. It's the Fantastic Four. There's a man made of rocks and another man who can stretch, and then the other guy says "flame on," but his clothes never get burned, and it's goofy and silly and fucking stupid as all hell, and just do it.
So let's see. I believe you took the words right out of my mouth, Dylan. So let's move on to a successful movie that came out in August, which was Straight Outta Compton, a movie that did really successful to the point where it made more money, I believe, way more money in its first weekend than Fanforstic could have done in its entire theatrical run. And of course,
I didn't I
sorry.
didn't see it, so I can't really comment. It looked interesting. I recognized some of the songs that were in the trailer, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen it, so.
Did you see it, David?
Are we talking about Gem and the Holograms?
No, Straight Outta Compton, the other movie about musicians, artists.
Okay, I wasn't paying attention for a moment, but uh, not yet. I mean, I want to,
Hmm.
and I regret the chance not seeing it in theaters. Like right now, I'm regretting not watching Creed
Uh-huh.
in
Oh yeah,
theaters.
same here.
But
I still need to see it.
I really want to see that movie because Creed is Straight Outta Compton, featuring black men, and it got rave reviews from many critics.
Oh yeah, it kind of became like a bit of a cultural movement, especially it started that movement on Facebook where people were doing like inserting blank out of blank, where it's like Power Rangers straight out of Angel Grove.
It's
So
Wasn't
I started
Paul
finding that
Giamatti in that
annoying.
movie?
yeah, Paul Giamatti was he was the manager of the NWA music group.
I would have never seen that coming. That's an interesting bit of casting.
Hmm.
Of course, I never would have expected him to be the person who would warn me about an earthquake, but that happened also. I don't know.
Hmm. So yeah, that was a good movie that did very successful, and it probably related to a lot of people because it was based around relatively recent events. So let's see. Another significant moment that occurred this time in television was the fact that Jon Stewart ended his, I believe, I want to say 15-year run. Maybe it was like 15 or 14-year run on The Daily Show, and he ended his run on the show in August and was immediately replaced by Trevor Noah. And it was roughly around the same time where the Stephen Colbert, who ran the Colbert Report, which was like a spin-off show from The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, he ended that show so that he could take David Letterman's take over for David Letterman's show, who also ended his long tenure on his talk show, on his late night talk show.
All these talk shows are changing hands. This is a thing that's been going on for several years now. Like when Jimmy Fallon took over, whichever that show is that he took over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check out The Daily Show now that it's got Trevor Noah because I've seen some of his stand-up stuff.
Hmm.
So I know of him before he took over, and it's kind of interesting that they picked him to take over because he was, he you would expect them to pick a comedian who more people already knew.
Hmm.
His career is sort of still early on, so I was impressed that they chose him.
Oh yeah, definitely. What I found really funny was that I think there was a small controversy, quote unquote controversy, that occurred right before he took over for the show, and that was like I guess some people, surprise, surprise, people on the internet found his tweets to be offensive because they were making Jewish jokes or whatever, and pretty much no one cared, and Trevor Noah just like kind of swatted those complaints away. And from what I understand, I haven't seen his any episodes with him in it, only because I haven't watched television a lot in general, but for it seems like he's doing a pretty good job at hosting the show so far.
Mm.
Let's see, was there anything?
He's a funny
Mm-hmm.
guy, so he's a funny guy. So I think he was a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
I just was surprised that they picked him. But yeah, I've been meaning to check out some of his stuff on there. There's probably clips all over YouTube I could just look at
Mm-hmm.
without having to like actually watch an episode of the show because I don't really follow a lot of TV anymore either.
Right.
Me neither.
I still need to catch up on Gotham after all this time.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I have like certain shows that I like keep up with, and the rest of it's like fuck you TV.
Like
I got like
the biggest shows this year that I followed like on a weekly basis were Rick and Morty and Steven Universe.
and then of course earlier this year we had Better Call Saul.
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. Let's see. We also had in September. Speaking of talk shows, you briefly mentioned Jimmy Fallon, and in September, Jimmy Fallon happened to have teamed up with Kel Mitchell to what was seemed to have been like a reprisal of his role of Kel Mitchell's role on Good Burger, which was a reoccurring skit he would do on the sketch series All That, which occurred like a good, I want to say 20 years ago, maybe on
So long
Oh
ago. I
god.
remember what that fucking show on Nickelodeon.
yeah, Nickelodeon. All
I used to
that. This
watch
is
so much all that.
all that. This is all that.
That's enough, Andres.
I loved all that. And then fucking Keenan Thompson went on to be on Saturday Night Live, and he's been on there for ever now. I don't
Yeah.
think he's ever going to leave that show because I guess he's just very comfortable with sketch comedy.
Yeah, but then the most unexpected thing happened. Kanan Thompson appeared in the Jimmy Fallon Good Burger sketch. So for the first time in years, fans of these two individuals got to see Kel Mitchell and Kanan. Kanan and Kel together once again as they performed their Good Burger sketch on the Jimmy Fallon show, and 90s kids went wild when they saw this, because I guess there was a falling out that occurred years ago between Kanan and Kel, and they tried to do their own separate thing. Dylan obviously mentioned Kanan has been on Saturday Night Live for quite a while, and we thought that we'd never see the duo reunite, and we saw them do so on Jimmy Fallon show.
Yeah. Anytime something from the '90s like makes an appearance on television, like the internet just explodes
Hmm.
because '90s kids are a very nostalgic and voracious group when it comes to things from their childhood being brought back in any capacity.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
in 5 years, the 90s would have happened 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And that's the thing. I feel like 80s nostalgia has kind of ran its course. Every 80s kid who was in their 20s and they got to have their time to shine with, Hollywood kind of marketing towards them. Nowadays, it's the 90s kids who are kind of who are being like the new target, because it's like, okay, these 80s kids, they're entering their 30s, they're moving on with their lives, they don't really have enough disposable income to spend money on our shit. So it's like, hey, these 90s kids, they're entering their 20s, they're very profitable, so let's bring back Samurai Jack, let's bring back Hey Arnold,
Yeah.
let's bring back Nickelodeon's The Splat, which is a program dedicated to all the 90s shit that they put out during that decade. So
Do you remember something called Kablam, Andres?
yes, I remember the Kablam. I remember they had Action League. No.
I loved Action League. Now I loved Kablam.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
should bring back Kablam. Let's start a movement. Hashtag bring back Kablam.
If it could happen with MST3K, I don't see why we can't bring Kablam back.
Yeah, I don't know how many people will watch it. I don't know if anybody outside of the two of us remember Kablam. But
Feature who could forget Meltman with the ability to melt.
and there was like the naked guy. I forget his name.
I
He was
forget.
like
Yeah, he
Naked
was
Man.
like super strong and super naked.
Yeah, it's so fucking stupid. I loved it.
Stinky Diver. Do you remember Stinky Diver?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for the wave of like shitty '90s cartoon adaptations to film. You know,
Mhm.
give me a Gargoyles movie. You know, give
I
me
think that was already confirmed a couple months ago.
Was it? All right, cool.
Yeah,
Give me
it's
give
already
me
happened. Oh, fucking Power Rangers!
yeah. Disney, you know what? Get on this shit. Make a Darkwing Duck movie.
Yeah.
It'll suck.
Make an
You can
make an
make it.
adaptation of The Duck Knight Returns. That was a
Oh
thing.
yes, yes, do that. I think you realize what kind of a fan base you have lurking in the shadows, waiting for more Darkwing Duck. But you know, there are many of us.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Let bring back Tiny Toons and Animaniacs. Warner
God.
Brothers.
Yes, if they did that, I would be. Animaniacs was just genius.
Fuck
Genius.
yeah.
You know what? While you're at it, bring back Freakazoid.
Yeah, we need more Freakazoid.
Let's just halt all production on new cartoons and just.
Well, we're already getting Digimon back.
Yeah, oh, are we?
Well, yeah, there was a new anime series that premiered this year called Digimon Adventures Try.
Is it connected to the original like kids?
Yeah, yeah.
Because there for a while they were like, we're gonna do different Digimon stories with different kids, and I was like, I don't care anymore.
But this one brought back the season 1 characters.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't watched some Digimon since like I was a tot.
Same here. Let's see. So, moving away from 90s nostalgia, as beautiful as it is, let's talk about remember what happened when there was this one individual who created a clock, and this guy was so smart, this little kid, I think he was elementary or middle schooler, he
Oh, I do
made
remember
the
this
clock,
story. This
and
was so fucked up.
he brought the clock to school. His teacher thought it was a fucking bomb and called the police. The police arrested this poor kid. And let's see, let me just read the Wikipedia article because this is just so messed up what they did to this kid. And his name was Ahmed Mohammed. And
Oh, no wonder she thought it was a bomb.
I know with a name like that, it's like, you know, the most racist of minds can immediately draw the quickest of assumptions. Let's
But
see.
he has the most like. It's hard to not be racial profiled when you have a name like that, though. Is the sad thing. Like, it's not just the fact that he is of that race, and you can tell by looking at him, but his name is fucking Ahmed Muhammad.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Ahmed Muhammad had assembled the parts of an electronic clock in a pencil box and brought it to school to show his teachers. Because, like, hey, you know, I did something that not many people could do. I bet they'll be really happy about this.
I bet they'll be impressed and think that I'm, you know, like a really good student. And then maybe they'll like, you know, look upon me with pride. But instead, they threw him in jail.
His English teacher thought the clock resembled the bomb, confiscated it, and reported him to the school's principal. Local law enforcement was called, and Muhammad was questioned by the police for an hour and a half. You'd think they would have noticed by now that wasn't a fucking bomb. Also, if it was a bomb, you would have thought that they would have called in like the SWAT team for that, not the fucking police.
Yeah, like, what is this fucking Jingle All the Way where the one cop comes out, I was on the bomb squad for 10 years. He just, like, shakes it and then it blows up in his face. But that's the level of stupidity we've reached in real life.
Local law enforcement was no, I already read that part. After being handcuffed and taken into custody, where he was not allowed to see his parents, he couldn't even get a courtesy phone call. Where he was.
This reminds me a lot. I'm picturing.
Yeah.
You remember the South Park episode, The Snook?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm kind of picturing in my head, like all that interrogation scene and shit. And if it went down like that, this was some pretty funny shit.
He was transported to a juvenile detention facility where he was fingerprinted and his photograph was taken. He was then released to his parents. The case was not pursued further by juvenile justice authorities. However, Muhammad was suspended from school. So he technically didn't do anything wrong, yet he still got suspended.
It's fucking stupid. And they sent him to juvie for a night, man. Anything could have happened to him in there. There's some bad kids. He could have got like stabbed or like raped or like
Stabbed.
or stabbed.
And so
Raped and stabbed and then raped. It's all combinations of those things.
And let's see, obviously the story went viral. A lot of people called out on the school's bullshit. Like they called out on their racism. A lot of people supported this kid. He even got to meet the President Obama at one point. And I think like the family they attend. I think they're right now or either on November 23rd, 2015. Ahmed's family threatened to sue the city of Irving and the school district for civil rights violation and physical and mental anguish unless they receive a written apology and compensation of $15 million. So the family is certainly riding this opportunity. They're riding this story high, and I'd say good for them. If my child was treated as horribly as Muhammad was, I would have I want their blood on my hands. Of course, a check for $15 million would do.
What would have happened if that kid was white?
They would have been like, "Hey, what you got there, little Timmy?" And he would have been like, "I made a clock." They'd been like, "Oh, cool," and that would have been the whole story.
Yeah, that's what would have happened.
And then he would have like gone home to his family and eaten like some pancakes or some shit. That would have been,
And he would have lived the rest of his life like any other white kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which some would have us to believe would just be like luxury, but it's not quite that extreme, but it is like it's a pretty good position to be in. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, totally. So let's see. Moving on to the month of October, there was a really funny meme that came out of a certain music video performed by none other than Drake, who he made a music video for a song called Hotline Bling, I believe it was called, where he did the stupidest dancing.
They parodied this on Saturday Night Live, and it was genius. And Donald Trump was in it.
Yeah. And like the way he was dancing was just so ridiculous. It's like he didn't even give a fuck what sort of choreography he was trying to pull off. He was trying to do like the cha-cha or something, like swinging his arms left and right. He was some like I don't know drunkard, just like moving his hips everywhere. And of course the internet just went wild with that music video and did a lot of funny stuff.
I don't know why people are so surprised though. Did Dre ever really give a fuck? I mean, is it this surprising to find out that his dancing is as lazy as his vocals? It's not often as a white person that I get to critique someone's rhythm, but damn, bro.
I think I may have found this video that did a compilation of all the different parodies that they made with him. I mean, there's one version where he's just like holding lightsabers, another one where he's throwing pokeballs, another one where he's swinging a tennis racket. I even saw on Facebook one where he was doing the arm swing and he was photoshopped in a like gameplay of Street Fighter 2.
What'd you say the name of the song was?
Hotline Bling. I'll share the link to you guys.
Oh my god. I googled
here.
Drake dancing, and the first video that popped up is 12 hilarious Drake Hotline Bling dancing memes.
You used to call me on my cell phone. And then people have started...
Oh god, that was him?
That was him.
I thought that was Lil Wayne.
And I know why the Hotline blings.
Has Lil Wayne even done anything recently? I haven't heard his name in forever.
I don't know. Yeah, there was even one like people would do like take images of people badly dancing and they would put the Hotline Bling song over that. Like they do it with like Carlton. They did it with the dwarf or midget actor from Twin Peaks when he was in the red room dancing to jazz music.
I want to see it with the Godzilla dance.
I'm pretty sure.
Here's the Saturday Night Live parody.
I'm checking it out right now. Not sure if I can listen to a podcast while also doing this. Well, they already got the set down. Oh.
Yeah, this guy Jay Farrow is a genius. He does
Yeah.
like a great impression of every black guy ever.
I know you make fun of my dance moves. I bet your father danced like me. I mean, you just look at that music video and you're like, what the fuck is he doing?
I'm just waiting for the part where Donald Trump shows up.
I saw him. I just skipped to his part. Fuck. Oh, I gotta include these in the video description. I even saw like one parody where it's like just a fat version. Like, you know what Weird Al Yankovic did for Michael Jackson's Bad and just made a movie about being fat and eating a lot?
Yeah.
Someone did that for this music video. Oh, that was beautiful. You gonna say something?
No, I lost it.
Okay.
I was gonna say something, and then I got distracted by the
But
by the hilarity.
you were distracted by the magic of Drake. So moving onwards, the last thing that I want to mention for the month of October was the celebration of Back to the Future Day, where we got to celebrate the date that Marty and Doc and Marty and was the girlfriend's name Jennifer,
Yes.
where all three of them they went to October 24th, 2015, and this was a really big year, especially like a lot. This was also the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future, and so a lot of people. Oh, it was heavily excuse me, really. Sorry for that. A lot of people celebrated the fact that the first Back to the Future was 30 years old. They were excited about the fact that today the future was finally here. A lot of companies to like try to cash in on the hype for Back to the Future. What was it like? Pepsi did something and Nike
Yeah, they
did
had some kind
something.
of. They what was it? Pepsi, whatever that
Pepsi
kind.
Perfect.
Pepsi Perfect. That's it. The one that Marty drinks when he goes to the past because it's our past now.
Yeah.
He when he comes to a later date in the past, he drinks this drink in the movie called Pepsi Perfect, and they released it on that day. It was like in limited quantities. I knew some people who were trying to get a hold of some.
hmm
Don't know if that panned out or not.
And there was also like, USA Today. They released what was it for October 25th, 2015? They released a newspaper with the cover of Marty's son on getting arrested, just like in the movie. They Nike came out with those self-lacing shoes. What else? Toyota did something where they got the actors and talked about a new car that actually runs on recycled natural gases and recycled garbage, similar in concept to the Mr. Fusion from Back to the Future 2. And I think there was even like those quote unquote hoverboards that came out, but they're not really hoverboards, they're just segways, loosely shaped like a skateboard.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those around lately. And I've heard that they're like way harder to drive than they look because when the people riding them, they make it look so fucking easy.
Oh yeah.
But I've heard that it's really hard because like it's basically just a Segway without the thing you hold on to with your hands, and you gotta like control everything with your feet.
Yeah.
And I don't know. When I first saw those things, I was like, finally, an invention where if I had one, I wouldn't have to walk. But then I heard that it was actually like hard, and I was like, oh well, never mind.
Well, would you rather work really hard for like a day or two, or just continue to work at walking the rest of your life?
I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting conundrum for a
Yeah.
lazy fuck like me. Kind of find myself caught between, two lazy options. But the question becomes which is more lazy than the last, and I don't know if I've arrived at a conclusion.
Well, either way, Back to the Future still left quite a big impact for this year, especially since 2015 was the year that every moviegoer was waiting for to happen. Because a lot of the time, whenever people try to depict the future, they often go to a year so far ahead that they'll think, we're not even going to be alive to see that actually come to fruition or not.
Yeah, but
Uh,
Back to the Future had this device where it was like increments of 30 for the most part until they went back way back to like 18, whatever.
mhm.
But for the most part, it's like increments of 30.
And they went. This was like a futuristic year that was much closer to us than any other year previously, and so this was like 2015 was always that magical year that everyone was waiting for, and a lot it kind of inspired a lot of people to go out there and try to invent a lot of the inventions um, that were depicted in Back to the Future 2. So Back to the Future 2 really was like a big inspiration for a lot of people creatively, scientifically, artistically, and whatnot. And I'm really glad to see that people still care about Back to the Future, even 30 years after the franchise first premiered on the big screen. Um, so like no way back when, and I'm really glad people are still enjoying the film to this day and always will. And it looks like Back to the Future will certainly won't be going away anytime soon, and I can only just pray to God this doesn't convince Universal to make a reboot of this film.
Oh, you just wait. They were talking about doing it once before, and it was a terrible idea. And
Oh yeah.
I don't think anything ever came of it. Weren't they like talking about? They were talking about like they had somebody in mind for Marty, and when they said who it was, I remember I flipped out, but I don't remember who it was anymore.
It wasn't Bieber, right? Because that was like a rumor that lasted all of 5 seconds.
I did hear a Bieber rumor. I don't know if that's what I flipped out about or not, but yeah, eventually they're gonna remake that franchise. Remakes are the bread and butter of the current movie industry.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a franchise that's this, honestly, I'm surprised they didn't already do it like for 2015. Like I'm surprised they didn't have something planned in advance and like do a new movie this year because really I think they wasted an opportunity because they could have made a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. So we move on to November, where Shia LaBeouf shows his face once again on this list, and Shia LaBeouf did this publicity stunt where I guess he must have rented some theater where people can come in for free and watch all of his movies in reverse chronological order. And Shia LaBeouf live streamed the event, but he didn't live stream the
Does
movies
does that
themselves.
does that include the Even Stevens movie?
Yeah, I believe so. Because the funny thing is, he didn't live stream the movies themselves. He live streamed his face, his reaction on the internet.
Uh huh.
And you could tell, like, when they were showing the Transformers movies, he's had this look of embarrassment on him. And then when they got to the Even Stevens movie, you see actual, like, tears of happiness coming out of Shia. It was like, oh, this guy fondly remembers the good old days before he became this person
This insane person.
who keeps telling me to do it.
I don't know what it is. What is it, Shia?
Let's see, another celebrity news. Charlie Sheen went on I believe I think it was called the Today Show, not the Today Show. I think it was just called simply Today, where he made the announcement that his tiger blood tested positive for HIV.
Oh.
Who saw it coming, folks? Who knew this was gonna happen?
Losing.
Oh, now we know why it's called Two and a Half Men.
Oh. Well, that's not any worse. That's not any worse than my bad joke.
Are you implying that his disease makes him half of a man?
Possibly.
I'm greatly offended by this episode of the Sands of Serizawa podcast.
Oh boy! And so to immediately put this on an even lower note, November was unfortunately the month where the terrorist attacks occurred in Paris. It was a horrible event. I remember everyone was talking about it on Facebook. A lot of people did the whole movement where they put the flag, the Paris flag, over their profile pictures. It was a really horrific event. I was really sorry to hear this sort of thing happen to them. And what really kind of bugged me about this event was how people were offended that people were grieving for Paris and not for the other countries that were attacked by these same terrorists. To which I say, sure, that sucks that those tragedies did not get the recognition they deserved. But the fact that Paris or France in general is like a first world country and it's part of like our own little if you were to like personify all the countries in the world, at least the first world countries kind of have this social circle where we kind of act like we have this protective bubble over us, that we have the illusion that nothing bad can ever happen to a first world country like ours or France or whatever. And to
Yeah,
have
and that's not to say that we should be that way.
right, right.
It's not to say that we should care less about other countries just because they're less white than we are.
Hmm.
But at the same time, yeah, I think you're right. It kind of shatters illusions a little bit, and it just strikes a little closer to home.
Absolutely, yeah. Like we know France, and it's it's very associated to our culture. I guess you could say.
We in France go back a long time.
Yeah, yeah. We still remember that birthday present they gave us that we probably display on in New York.
If it weren't for France, we wouldn't be a free country, ladies and gentlemen. Um,
Hmm.
they helped us win that war with the fucking tea drinking motherfuckers,
Yeah.
and then we love you, Britain. And then so yeah, it just strikes a little closer to home because you're right. We do have this sort of illusion that nothing like this can happen to us, even though it did 14 years ago. Remember?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it does sort of shatter illusions and like this idea of security that we tend to have, and I think that's why it got way more press than any of the other attacks. And I think people who make that complaint
Hmm.
are, I understand what they're saying, and I think they have a basis for their complaint, but I don't think they're really thinking it through. I don't really think they have a grasp on why the Paris attack was more, I guess, relevant to
Western
Western.
culture.
Yeah, relevant, more relevant to Westerners than attacks in whatever the other countries were. I don't even know where else it happened. See,
Hmm.
that's how out of the media that was.
Right. I think maybe it was like Russia and Turkey. I want to say maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was like a Middle Eastern country. Again, yeah, shows how much I know as a Westerner.
Well, obviously we're not gonna. And this sounds fucked up, but obviously we're not going to be mourning for something that happened in Russia because we don't historically have the best relationship with them. I mean, we're friendly.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like there again, it's not in that social circle, and so we kind of, in a fucked up way, expect that shit to go down in those type of countries.
Yeah,
Again, yeah, it's a fucked up way of thinking, but that's kind of how we're brought up in a way.
it's just a human psychology issue.
Hmm.
You care more about people that you're more closely associated with, and that sort of transfers up to the national level. Is it right necessarily? And probably not, but that's just the way it happens.
Hmm. And you can't really change something like that overnight, just like that.
No, no.
Yeah, it's a thing where it's like context is really important here.
This is another one of those things that happened that we were talking about all this year, where people
Hmm.
are getting offended without really understanding why things are the way they are.
Exactly.
It's like let's complain about the symptoms and not try to do anything about what the actual cause is.
Hmm. So yeah, as we move on, we just want to say that of course, our hearts go out to everyone out there who is who unfortunately lost someone important to them in in Paris. And even then, I I forgot to bring this up. I do want to bring about the San. Let's see. I really don't want to mess up on the name, but there was another event that took place in California, a shooting that went down.
Oh, it's isn't it San Bernardino?
Yeah, Bernardino, and it was
Jesus,
also
Andres, you're from out there. You should be able.
yeah, I know. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the city, and I believe it was a terrorist attack that I believe killed uh
Is this the one where the guy like shot up a church
I want to
or
say
something?
so.
Riveting podcasting.
Okay, all right. So on December 2nd, 2015, in a terrorist attack which consisted of a mass shooting and an attempted bombing in San Bernardino, California, 14 people were killed and 22 were seriously injured. And I think this was originally considered by the media to have been caused by a Caucasian individual. And I think it was a kind of a controversy where the media was already saying, "Oh, this is like just like white males. They're, obviously they're the source of everyone's problems." And it was like, no, this was kind of like an Islamic extremist terrorist sort of thing. And so it made those people who were like, the type of people who would always scapegoat like the scapegoat the you know straight white male demographic, they just completely shut up once evidence came up of the backgrounds of the terrorists who.
And it's not often that you can get these people to shut up. It's kind of like a moment of relief. It's like a can of fresh air. It's like the end of Return of the Jedi when like the thing blows up and then everybody on Endor starts partying. Like it's a momentous event when you get these fucking idiots to shut up
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
about something.
I feel like it's really kind of fucked up where it's like this event barely happened and already people are trying to use this to kind of promote their own type of agenda.
I think America at this point is very desensitized to mass shootings. They've become so frequent that like a mass shooting happens, it's like, oh look, another one, and so everyone immediately jumps to their sort of political bandwagon and like this is obviously a sign that we need gun control, and the other side's like, nah, if they had guns, everybody would have lived, and it just becomes this whole thing every time. It always plays out the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just become something of a media frenzy, is a circus. Um, uh, and like I said, I think it's just because we've had so many of these mass shootings now. They're not quite as shocking as they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be you would hear there was a mass shooting today, and you'd be like, oh my god, really? What happened? Now it's like there was a mass shooting today. I was like, oh, another one. That's nice. It's like, it's just a frequency problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
If anything happens like more than so many times in like a short span of time, it just sort of loses its oomph.
Mm-hmm. And I guess this was a married couple of Pakistani descent. Of course, Pakistani doesn't, just because they're Pakistani doesn't mean that has had a big deal in terms of them making their decision. But I only brought it up just because. And let's see, according to FBI director, the FBI's investigation revealed that the perpetrators were quote unquote homegrown violent extremists inspired by foreign terrorist groups, but were not directed by such groups or part of a terrorist cell or network. So these were people who were inspired by what went on in other countries, and they're like, hey, we believe in these same fucked up terrorist ideals, and let's just do something horrifying. And apparently, this attack was the second deadliest mass shooting in California after the 1984 San Isidro McDonald's massacre, and the deadliest in the U.S. since the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. And it was also the worst terrorist attack to occur in the U.S. on U.S. soil since the September 11th attacks. And
I
the
never heard of the 1986 McDonald's massacre.
the McDonald's massacre, San Isidro is where I live. I live in technically I live in San Diego, but San Diego's a big county, and I happen to live in the San Isidro part of San Diego.
Yeah, I
And
got you. It's like a district or whatever. It's like
thank you, exactly, yeah. And so that where that McDonald's is only like a 5 minutes away from me. It's like very close, and it's an event that definitely my mom definitely remembered that day because again she grew up in this area, and I think a friend of hers was unfortunately a victim of that event, and yeah, it's definitely a horrifying event that a lot of people remember. It was just this crazy motherfucker who I guess suffered from mental issues and he just one day, I believe, like got just a bunch of, I either had like, I forgot what kind of gun he had, but he just went out and went to this random McDonald's and just unloaded his gun on all these individuals in there, and was eventually taken out by a SWAT team sniper, I believe.
So he just randomly chose the McDonald's. He didn't have like a grievance with that McDonald's in particular.
No, I think it
That
was
just
just a random just a random quote unquote, just like a random luck of the draw.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know if like he had a specific reason that he targeted that McDonald's, like somebody like fucked up his order, and like, or I don't know. You never know with crazy people, but
Right.
um,
And yeah, to know that this is something that was like as big of an event, not as big of an event, a big of a tragedy as this to occur in California is, a very sad news to know that, again, we talked about how with France it's something that occurred and shattered our, little our little illusion, that bubble of protection, and then the fact that this occurred in America and then California. So for me, it kind of scares me a little bit knowing that this something like this can happen, like these something this terrifying can occur so close to home. And you can you can't really control these events that happen. You can't control human actions, the human emotions, all that stuff. And all you can do is just be thankful that it didn't happen to you. And I guess I'm not sure if there's a way to um, prepare yourself for an event such as this, but I guess it makes you more aware of the world around you and how dangerous it could be.
yeah, I don't think there's any way that you can really prepare yourself for such a thing, other than to sort of adopt a mindset of the fact that anything can happen at any time.
Hmm.
Once you come to that realization, things like this don't really. I mean, obviously they're still impactful, but they don't have as much of a shock factor. But in terms of like actually like preparing yourself for this sort of thing, I don't think there's anything that you can really do.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, let's see. I know we've covered the most saddest recent news for 2015. So I'm not sure. I still have some things to cover. I'm not sure if it's appropriate to even bring up these more lighthearted things after just going to an in-depth conversation about about terror about terrorism. What do you think, Dylan?
I say bring it on.
Okay.
No,
Well,
we don't want to end this show on a fucking depressing note.
all right. Well, for the month of to continue the month of December, we had the biggest movie that came out this year. That's right, Alvin and the Chipmunks, the fucking road trip.
I was about to make the same joke. What kind of an idiot schedules their movie, any movie, to come out on the same day as fucking Star? Don't do that. Don't bring out your movie on the same day as Star Wars.
When did Tarantino release The Hateful Eight?
It wasn't on the same day. That's for sure. It was like I think it was like the weekend after. Hold on, I'll look it up.
Maybe the guys behind Alvin and the Chipmunks, they were like, you know what, fuck it, we can't compete with any other day. We've already got movies lined up. Or
I
maybe they were
mean,
like, you know what, we have to release a movie on the same day as Star Wars. Let's at least do something that we know would attract some people because it already has a built-in audience.
Tarantino released Hateful Eight the week before Star Wars. It was on December 7th.
Okay.
So actually, that's a little bit more than a week, but it was on the 7th of December. So
Hmm.
see, he didn't. He knew better. He didn't release his movie on the same day as Star Wars. It's just a terrible idea. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
I mean, I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but I'm
Hmm.
sure that Alvin and the Chipmunks Road Chip got slaughtered. I don't even know why the movie had to exist. We had one movie and it was all right, just a silly little fucking Alvin and the Chipmunk movie. And they
Yeah.
made the sequel, and I was like, okay, I could,
Chipettes, at least they're bringing in characters from the lore.
yeah, yeah, the squeakquel, and I'm like, all right, okay, I don't need any more. And then they were like, Chipwrecked, and I was like, oh god. And I thought that would be the end because I don't think Chipwrecked really caused that much of a stir. But nope, here they come with fucking. It's kind of like the Ice Age movies.
Hmm.
I don't know of that many people who actually go to see those, but then they keep making sequels. And I'm like, how are you sustaining this?
Well, see, I didn't even like. I know the third movie had dinosaurs, but I think there may have been like a second one.
Yeah, it was the meltdown.
Oh yeah, with Nicki Minaj as like the daughter of Raymond Mammoth.
Yeah, Free Mammoth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ray Mammoth.
and then there was the one with the dinosaurs. And then there was the one with the dinosaurs, and then there was Continental Drift. And now there's isn't there another one coming out or something? I don't know.
I think Continental Drift, that was like the second one, and they went up against two prehistoric crocodiles. That I don't know. It's a dead. I would say it was a dead. It's a dead franchise, but there was actually a short that was in front of a movie. I forgot what movie I saw this year, but it had a movie with Scrat in it as a short. It was the
Okay, I'm
Peanuts
looking
movie.
at
It was a Peanuts movie. I saw the Peanuts movie this year,
yeah.
and they had a Scrat short that came out before the Peanuts movie, and it was so retarded, where it's like Scrat, he was in a flying saucer, and he was bouncing around different planets pinball, and apparently Scrat ended up creating the solar system because he was moving all the planets in place. I'm like, bullshit. The Earth was already involved in by the Ice Age. There was already a solar system for billions of years.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's a shame because I really liked the first Ice Age.
Yeah. Oh
That
yeah,
came out when I was
definitely.
like around when that came out I was the right age for it, and even looking back now it's actually a pretty good movie.
Hmm.
Um but the sequels, I mean the first one was alright, but eh. And okay, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for the franchise. So in 2002, we had the original Ice Age. And then in 2006 we had Ice Age: The Meltdown. And then in 2009, Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs. And then Continental Drift was in 2012.
Oh wait, now I
And
remember. Peter Dinklage was like a monkey pirate in that movie.
next year,
Oh
next
no.
year, we are getting the fifth Ice Age movie, which is called Ice Age: Collision Course.
Hmm. Well, I gave up on that franchise a long time ago, so why should I start caring now?
Yeah,
Well, I
I
know
don't even
we.
know what this movie's
Yeah.
about, but I don't even know what this movie's about, but it's coming out next year. Ice Age 5. I know you're all stoked for that.
I know we just came we this came out of a conversation about Star Wars, but we talked to death about Star Wars: The Force Awakens. If you want to know about our opinions on that movie, check out the spoiler review we did in the last episode, which was the Christmas episode. So yeah, we liked it, and we're very happy it exists.
Indeed.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was now this is a show that I watch on the E Network. Dylan, are you familiar with Joel McHale's show, The Soup?
I have heard of it, yes.
Okay, for those who don't know, The Soup was this weekly show that came out every Fridays. Then it was briefly moved to Wednesdays, but then back to Fridays, where Joel McHale and
Actually, I believe I saw a few episodes of this. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I've seen some of it.
okay,
Um,
cool. And this was a show where Joel McHale and a team of writers and performers, they would just make jokes about whatever latest celebrity news came out, and basically Joel McHale, I thought would just deliver these funny, hysterical, comedic, verbal smackdowns as he just satirizes everything about the obsessive celeb culture we like the E network kind of envelops around these celebrities, where it's like these like people on E, like they would have like news programs, but they don't talk about like news or even movie news or even entertainment news. They talk about celebrity news, the kind of shit that made the Kardashians popular in the first place. And The Soup was a satire of all of that, and it has been going on for, I believe, 10 or 11 years. And just on the 18th, I believe, The Soup had their series finale. And they even Joel McHale mentioned this, like the in all their wisdom, decided to schedule their last episode on the same day that Star Wars came out.
oh, really?
Yeah, and even like
That seems like a bad idea.
yeah, and this week I got the time to recorded the last episode on my DVR. So when I checked out the episode, Joel McHale ironically said, "Thank you for taking the time to watch us on your DVR, as you are probably coming back from watching Star Wars right now."
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I
And
can't imagine anybody saying, "I want to go see Star Wars, but instead, I think I'm going to sit home and watch The Soup." Because it's the end of The Soup, and I got to see that.
yeah, like Star Wars is always going to be there, man. But the soup, that shit's gone, man. It's not like I can watch that on DVD. That shit ain't on DVD.
Right, right, right. It's not the kind of show they release on DVD, so after it's gone, it's just gone. I mean,
I mean, a
maybe
weekly.
they put it on Hulu or something.
I mean, a weekly show like made all year round. That'd be ridiculous to put that. That's been going on for 11 years, as a matter of fact. Just imagine how big that DVD set would be.
It'd also be really weird to watch, like, going back, because it's all, like, topical.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of why you can't really watch any network show on DVD. I mean, I think maybe The Girls Next Door was on DVD, and what else? What was that Paris Hilton show that she was on? I don't know.
Um,
She and
yeah.
was her former best friend Nicole Richie? Was that her name? No, that wasn't it.
I mean, like it's one thing to get South Park on DVD and they like make jokes about whatever's going on at the time, but they do it in sort of a timeless fashion, and you can go back and rewatch those episodes years later.
Yeah.
It's another thing to watch like an episode of TMZ from 5 years ago. Like it just doesn't work.
I mean, is Keeping Up with the Kardashians on DVD?
I don't know. Probably.
If so, that would make for a really hilarious prank gift.
I don't. That's a good question. Is it?
Now I'm wondering, and I know it's gonna bug me until I have to check it out after this recording. But yeah, the soup ended. I'm really sad about it because I was a huge fan of that show, and it was pretty much the only thing I ever gave a damn about when it came to the E Network. And now with the soup gone, so does my attention span for said network.
Yeah. Occasionally, I like to watch an A True Hollywood Story.
Oh yeah, but
Uh,
that's like long since gone.
yeah. Do they still air any of them though?
I don't think so, because like again, the E Network is kind of not known for doing reruns or any sort of thing. It's always the newest shit that they've got to pimp out.
It's a shame because I always really liked their True Hollywood Stories.
Oh, me too. That was what
Very,
got me into the E Network in the first place.
very interesting television. And everybody's going to fucking sitcoms and shit. I mean, not sitcoms, reality TV and shit. And it's like,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
none of the channels are playing what they were originally intended to play. Everybody
Mhm.
jokes about how MTV isn't about music anymore. And, you know, remember when History Channel had history on it?
Remember when the Learning Channel TLC had shit you could learn from rather than Honey Boo Boo and 19 Kids and Counting?
It is hilarious that Honey Boo Boo is on the Learning Channel.
Well, not anymore. Now, like since last year.
Or was on the Learning Channel. When I don't think those people have learned anything in their entire life.
Well, I'm pretty sure Mama June would have now learned to not date a convicted sex offender when hosting a show because it can get your show canceled.
Apparently, she has really low standards.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
should get together with Jared.
Oh, ah, it all comes round. It all comes round. Yeah, it's like
All comes
poetry. It
back.
rhymes.
It's like, it's like poetry, it rhymes,
It
and
is so dense. Every single part of this
it's
retrospective has so many things going on.
like, it's like there's this like musical idea, it's like a refrain. It just like repeats itself. God, I've been listening to his commentaries on all the Star Wars films, or at least all
Yeah,
of his Star Wars films, I should say.
yeah.
And it's interesting because every now and then he says something really cool, but then there's also a lot of him justifying his own bullshit
Hmm.
and like trying to trying to rewrite history and be like, yeah, I had this planned out from the beginning, you guys. I'm like, no, you didn't. You clearly didn't.
Yeah, yeah. What did he say anything on the part when he got to the parts where Leia would kiss Luke?
No, he didn't say nothing about that. That's interesting that he kind of skirted around that idea.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, I mean, if anybody was to ask him about it, he'd just be like, "Well, they don't know that they're brother and sister." And I kind of had that plan from the beginning, so that
He does that like I'm joking, but I'm not really kind of laugh.
yeah.
Oh, look how funny I am. So let's see. The last thing I want to talk
He
about,
it
yeah.
was interesting though. It was interesting though while watching his commentary on the Phantom Menace to hear him go on a tirade about how he didn't understand why people thought that um, digital characters looked any less real than live action characters.
The
He's like, none of
man.
this is real. He's like, none of this is real, man. It's all fake. And I'm like, yeah, but it's
This is more
about the way
fake.
it's the way it looks on camera, man. You don't understand, man. You don't understand. I mean,
You're old, man. You're out of touch.
You get some cred because the effects in Revenge of the Sith actually look really good, but the rest of it, man, what the fuck?
Oh yeah. Have you seen any of the Gungans that weren't Jar Jar? It looks like they weren't even fully rendered.
It doesn't even look like Jar Jar's fully rendered. He reminds me of that like little monkey alien that they find in Lost
Oh
in
my
Space.
god, yeah. I remember was like I was so impressed by that as a kid, and I looked at that now and I'm like, oh, it's shit.
That movie. I love you, wife.
Spiders.
Spiders.
But
Vintage nostalgia critic before he was a shitty person.
yeah.
Um,
Or maybe maybe like he like George Lucas, he was always a shitty person, but we didn't quite know it.
yeah.
But anyways, the last thing I wanted to bring up for December was the whole Steve Harvey Miss Universe event that occurred where
That is hilarious.
it was hilarious and sad where it's like you had the representative of like the Philippines and Colombia, and then wasn't like Steve Harvey said Colombia and then like just 5 seconds later it was like, oh, it's Miss Philippines.
No, they brought her out on stage, put the crown on her fucking head, because he's up there like a dumbass, and he like I guess glanced at the card and was like, "Survey says Columbia," and then they like
They did the whole
they put
shebang.
they put the crown on her head and everything, and like, and then
And
it's
she's
like, oh,
waving.
he's like, oh, my bad, and they have to rip the crown off of her head and give it to Miss Philippine.
Like for like a good like, oh no, what was it, like 3 4 5 minutes that Columbia, she thought she made it, all her hard work and dedication paid off, this was as good it was going to get, she had made it to the top, and in after a couple minutes it was all taken away from her. That poor woman.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see if Steve Harvey ever gets a hosting job again for something like this. I mean, good lord, it's like, and he actually deserves never to get a job like this again. It's not like a few years ago when like Seth MacFarlane actually did a really good job on the Oscars, but then people were complaining because he made a couple boob jokes, and I'm like, fuck you, people.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, he's never gonna host the Oscars again, but he didn't deserve that. But now, fucking Steve Harvey, this guy.
And the internet, again, like the internet is never your friend. I mean, there are times where the internet can support you, but it will turn on you in a second. And my god, did they made some of the most hilarious jokes with Steve Harvey.
Oh, Steve, just go back to Family Feud, man. It's what you're good at.
Oh yeah. So we have come to the end of our 2015 retrospective. 2015 had its ups, its lows, its funny moments, its generic moments, its sad moments, its tragic moments, its brilliant moments. It was certainly a year. It had a lot of things, but
Truly, it was a
a
year.
year.
A
What
365-day unit of time.
it set out to be that, and it did just that.
I guess you can say that for it. The world managed not to end for again. So
So we
well,
got
I
to
say that, but it had. I say that, but it's not over yet. We got about 24 hours.
True. So who knows? Maybe like the world would blow up tomorrow before the clock strikes at 12. So we're like, it's not a year. You didn't do your job right, 2015.
You had one job.
And that was to survive another
Worst baby
day.
New Year ever.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so I would say,
On the
Dylan,
whole, if I had to rank this year,
yeah, how would you rank 2015?
on the whole, how would I rank 2015? I don't know. Not as good as last year. Kind of a letdown in that regard.
Hmm.
It's like it was like last year was like a really good movie, and then this was the anticipated sequel, and it didn't really pan out.
So I guess the Avengers: Age of Ultron, kind of like the embodiment of 2015.
Yeah. Like I had a really good 2014. And I thought, yeah, 2015 is gonna rock, and I was like, not really.
Hmm. I
It
mean,
was
it's
like the
still
writers.
good.
It was like the writers of my life were running out of ideas, so they were like rehashing plot threads and like.
Go G Fest again. That'll be the next highlight.
And then at the end, they like shoehorned in a plot twist about a baby, but by that point, it was too far gone.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so, but yeah, how would I rank 2015? It was, as Andre said, a year.
Year. It was a year. Sometimes there's a year. Sometimes
Sometimes,
there's another year. But
sometimes
sometimes
there's a man.
there's a man who came from a year.
Whoa.
So I hope everybody, every single one of you, has enjoyed this retrospective look at the year that has just passed by. We hope you've had a wonderful time enjoying said year. We hope you've enjoyed this new season of the Sons of Serizawa podcast. Don't you worry your pretty little heads. We will be back in February, I believe, roughly around February 6th, I want to say, because that's when Bill said that we were going to no, February 12th is when we are going to start recording for nope, sorry. February 6th
Yeah.
is when we're going to start recording for SOS, and February 12th is when Bill and Dylan here are going to get back into re-recording for DFOS, the Demons from Outer Space podcast. And we
Yes,
want
but
to,
sometime between now and then, we are going to do a special episode of the Demons from Outer Space to cover our thoughts on season 9 of Doctor Who, because we haven't really talked about Doctor Who. We would have if we had done a season of Demons from Outer Space this fall, which was the original plan. We would have definitely talked about Doctor Who as it was happening. But that did not happen. So we're going to do a special at some point in between now and then to talk about Doctor Who season 9 all in one big chunk. And then, like Andre said, we're gonna bring it back on the 12th. Because this we were originally going to do DFOS during the fall. It was going to come back around the same time that SOS did, but then shit happened. So
Mhm. And last thing we want to let you guys know that yes, unfortunately, Bill was unable to perform the Q&A live stream this Monday, but he wants to let you know that this coming Monday, he is going to use all those questions that you asked in the promo video, and will actually do the live stream for the proper live stream for this coming Monday, as opposed to the Monday that just passed. And let's see. With that said, I recently, finished my retrospective look at the Heisei series of Godzilla films. I put out my last review, which was Godzilla vs. Destroya. Hope you enjoyed that. I also put out the latest episode of Shoe Watch, where I had Jacob Baker on as a special guest, as he. David, Adam, and I all made a recording for a commentary for Birdemic 2, The Resurrection. And finally, by the time this is out, I will have already uploaded my New Year's special review for my very first Gundam review, which is a 6-episode OVA series called Mobile Suit Gundam 0080, War in the Pocket. And so it's my very first time where I get to talk about my second favorite franchise of all time, obviously after Godzilla. And I really hope you guys enjoy me kind of branching out and trying to do a little something new here. With that said, is there anything you would like to promote, Dylan?
Or any news on that top 15 giant robot
Ah,
video, Andres?
Thankfully, I'm not sure if I've already said this, but Andrew is working on it, and now that the semester is over, he has more time to work on it. And he mentioned to me that he'll have it ready around, I think, around January. He wanted to say. I'm not sure if it was like the end of January or like mid-January. He's told me, but
All
it's
right, well,
close. It's getting
we'll
close.
Well, we'll see how that pans out because we all know what a shifty character that Andrew is. Uh, but yeah, I don't have anything to promote at the moment. At some point in the future, I'd like to bring Kaiju Spotlight back. And maybe do some other stuff too, because I think one of the reasons I get sort of burnt out or on YouTube sometimes is because I only do those videos. I'm probably never gonna finish the top 10 list of Jew Ranger episodes. In fact, I should probably just take down the first part because it's kind of pointless at this moment.
That kind of sucks because that was a really well made video you made. I just said
Thank you.
made twice.
At some point in the future, maybe I'll finish it sometime. If I finish it later, though, I'm probably just going to upload the whole top 10 list as one video because splitting it up like that was my fatal mistake.
Yeah.
By doing that, I opened up the door for my laziness to creep in, and as a result, I didn't finish it. Which is a shame because I wanted to use it as a vehicle to promote the Gosei Sentai Die Ranger DVD release, which did come out. I own it. It's probably great. I haven't watched it yet because I'm still watching Jetman. But go buy that, Tokusatsu fans.
And volume 2 of the Ultra manga.
Yeah, I gotta get my hands on that too. Shit, I was gonna buy that actually, and then I didn't.
Well, I just realized that I can use my gift certificate from my local comic book store, and I can use that to actually get the volume. Sweet.
Yeah, I was gonna buy it too. I totally fucking forgot because I got some like Amazon gift cards for Christmas.
Sweet.
But then I spent them all on DBZ stuff because I forgot.
Yeah. Did you get yourself a matching Goku for your Vegeta figure?
No, I bought a bunch. I've been collecting the DVDs. And,
cool.
I mean, I know I could be buying those newer Blu-ray sets, but I already started buying the DVDs long ago, and it's like I don't want to have some of the seasons on DVD and then have the rest of them on Blu-ray. That's just going to look awful on my shelf. And yes, I do think about things like that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Tangents.
Well, for the last time for 2015. He was previously here as David Joshua Hernandez, aka Gorizard.
I am Super DM64. Of course, Bill was not here tonight because he's a sick fuck.
Right. Coughing his lungs out, probably.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
But so yeah, he wasn't here. But shout out because it's his channel.
Obviously. And I have been your host for the third New Year's in a row, Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir. Thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you all in 2016. So, in order to send off this year, let's just say it one last time. Do it!
Just do it.
Nothing is impossible.
Or, maybe don't, if it's the child porn thing.
Don't do it. Please.